Welcome to Lakeshow Podcast, presented by Jack in the Box. This is a weekly deep dive into the biggest stories and topics surrounding Los Angeles Lakers. I'm Chris McGee, joined by Laker insider Mike Bresnahan, and a special guest. Jovan Buha of The Athletic. How we doing, buddy? And he has his own podcast.
I do. Buha's
right.
Block. Check
Buha's
it out
Block.
on YouTube and all your audio platforms. But I'm doing well. Last night was fun. That was something.
Don't be confused with what, Dave? D'Lo's Block? Does he have his own podcast called D'Lo's Block?
He does have his own podcast. It's not called
I thought it was like
D'Lo's
the Backyard thing.
Yeah, it's the Backyard.
Yeah,
but
it's called Backyard.
He had a crazy block, though.
Oh, he had
John
a block.
Collins.
Now I get it.
Yeah. But no, Dalton Knecht.
That's really the story, not
37
D'Lo's Block.
points.
LeBron
21.
James spoke about Dalton after the win.
Same shit I said last year. You know, everybody, on the internet called me a liar all the time. Just say I lie about everything. So, what am I now? Ben said it. I watched him. I watched Tennessee a lot. I did not think he was going to fall to us. I thought it would be impossible. I have no idea how that happened, but very grateful and very happy that he's here. I knew exactly what we was getting when he fell to 17.
Since you've been here, the team has tried to find a lot of players to fill kind of this role, Dalton's role, in terms of motion, shooting, in part because of what it can create for you and AD around the basket.
Yeah.
How excited are you to see
They
what
didn't-
kind of this gravity?
They didn't find DK. The other 16 teams it up. Did anybody watch him?
So last night was the most that I've, really focused on a game when I was there in a long time. Like I was out there early with James. We weren't in the chairman's room eating too long. Swear.
You were
James
riveted.
left, James left fairly early to come here.
Okay.
I was actually writing notes. And I thought the big thing was going to be LeBron's dunk in the third with 6:27 left on the clock. He had that left-handed dunk, and the place went absolutely nuts, and the team was going crazy. And then Dalton Knecht did his thing. That was crazy. 37 points, tied an NBA record with 9 threes. And he was on 9 threes for a while. I feel that they were really trying to get him the ball. Plus, I was hoping he'd get 3 more, and he could break D'Lo's 39-point scoring record with the Lakers. How impressive was it?
As impressive as it gets,
Yeah.
really. 37 points, most by a rookie this season. It's 21 points in the third quarter, most by a rookie this season. Actually, 4th most by any player this season in a quarter. So it just shows you it wasn't just like a special night for him as a rookie. It was a special night for any type of scorer or shooter. And really, like I was trying to think about it, like how many guys in the league could have that stretch? He scores 18 points in 3 minutes and 29 seconds, hits 5 threes, gets fouled on that other attempt, makes all 3. Like we're talking Steph, we're talking Clay.
LeBron
After
did
that,
it against Sacramento.
LeBron can, but like that, being moved around the floor the way that he was doing it, I think it's like maybe 5 players.
I wish I would have heard. So one of Beto's interns comes on the radio late on the postgame show. I never get to hear it. Well, ESPN has interns.
Yeah.
So I was driving home, so I was able to hear it.
Yeah.
And he came in and he said about how many guys have actually done this since the turn of the century, scored that many. And the list was insane. It was like 4 people, and it wasn't who you thought. It wasn't like the staff. It was crazy. So what he did was not a normal night for anyone.
Rarely. I'm going to put it this way. Yeah. I've been to a lot of Laker games in my 21 years around the team. They're completely unforgettable.
Yeah.
Kobe scores 81. Boston Lakers Game 4, 2010. You and I were both at Kobe's grand finale, 60 points. I'm not going to compare last night to those 3, obviously, but I had a little FOMO. Both you guys were there.
Yeah.
I was here in our lovely El Segundo studios, and it looked like it would be a really fun game to be at. I feel like there was a lot of joy in the building.
It was one of the more fun games I've seen live. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it's Utah.
You're right.
The court obviously looked different, but it had a good vibe about it. But that moment, Brez, was I don't know, it was just something to get behind. Like, oh, here's our new guy. Here's our rookie.
Right.
And just the way that they were trying to get him the ball and understanding that he's on a heater and let's just feed him was super cool. He almost felt weird. It was almost like he was like, okay.
Yeah, if you guys want me to shoot, I'm going to shoot.
Yeah.
And just watching 2 guys' reactions in specifically LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
Those guys were loving it. I mean, they were so happy. And they're doing their part. They are absolutely lifting their weight that they need to get this team to a good record, 10-4. Who knew?
Yeah.
You know? And I think that they're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. You know, they didn't do anything roster-wise during the offseason at all except add 2 rookies. And this guy that they added, wow. I mean, I tell you what, I got a little crazy last night. And I didn't say a lot of this on the air, but I did indeed go back and look at how was Kobe's first month as a rookie. Didn't get a lot of playing time. You know, Shaq and a ton of vets on that team. Understandable. Went back and looked at Brandon Ingram. Not a lot of playing time. Kuzma, he started coming along, right? He had a good game at Christmas, a couple decent ones before that. I even went all the way back to Magic. He scored 26 points in his first game as a rookie, had a triple-double in his 5th game. So Magic had probably the best month ever. Yeah, different era, but definitely deserving of the best rookie month ever. This game was special. I mean, it's hard to find a Laker rookie within his first month having an impact game like Dalton Knecht did.
Especially on a team, and this is what I was saying yesterday, on a team with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, the list goes on and on. This is a team that's a playoff team that has playoff hopes and title and all that stuff. For a rookie to come in and be able to impact this team, especially over the last 5 games, is pretty crazy. We saw this in the preseason, didn't we?
Yeah, the Phoenix game.
When he had the ball in his hands and he did unbelievable things to win that game. We saw that he had this ability. I never thought he'd get the chance to do it in a real NBA game against all the starters, with starters on the floor. So for him to have this game in game 14, shocking to me.
Yeah, and he's been heating up, to your point, the last 4 games.
19
where
and
he
27.
set 3 career highs in 3 of the past 4 games. Where 19, then he had 14, but then 27, and then the 37. And
did you ever know the minutes would come, though, where it took a couple guys to be hurt,
no,
maybe?
I certainly think that there's been some circumstantial things that have gone into this with Rui being out, him stepping into the starting lineup. I also think, if we're being honest, looking at the level of competition, they have played some lesser teams recently, during this stretch. Injured teams, but certainly not defensive juggernauts. This hasn't been against the Bostons or the Knicks or whatever elite defense you want to pick. But still, I mean, the fact that you're talking about all these scorers that the Lakers have, and in theory, he's like the 6th guy kind of in the pecking order at best. And he's now emerging as like potentially the number 3 guy or at least the number 4 guy kind of moving forward. So it's, I think he's ahead of schedule. And again, I think when we're looking at what's the most valuable offensive skill around LeBron and AD, it's 3-point shooting.
It's a guy who can stretch the floor.
It's not ball handling. It's not playmaking. Like you have that covered with those guys. You have shot creation covered with those guys. You need guys who can make shots around them. The Lakers have been looking for this type of shooter for years, and it seems like they finally found him.
All the Bogdanoviches of the world that we've been trying to trade for all these years, and
Buddy Hield.
Buddy Hield.
Clay rumors.
And now
summer.
you have one that you drafted.
Yeah.
And as LeBron said, everyone effed up.
Yep.
He fell into the lap of the Lakers. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I told you all.
He was fiery last night.
He was fiery.
With his post-game.
Well, listen, I think James Worthy gets fiery about it. Rob, too. Like, it makes NBA players mad when the people making decisions are basing all – and listen, they're doing their job, so the NBA players don't always see – they don't see eye to eye on everything, right? So – those guys want a young guy. Those teams ahead are thinking, oh, we're going to draft this young guy, and he's going to be in our system, and we're going to raise him. And 23-year-old, played 1 year at the SEC.
Right.
But if you watch him play, like, what were they watching in the workouts is what's shocking to me.
Yeah.
Did you not see the release? It took me 3 seconds. I'm no basketball savant. I coached freaking Wildwood High School in Campbell Hall.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's overcorrected, where everyone wants the 19 or 20-year-old, the first or second year guy.
Potential.
And because this guy played 5 years and was 23, people were like, well, he's a finished product. He's not. And it's like, I think he's gotten much better from game 1 to game 14.
And by the way, I remember watching in the preseason, and it was funny. JJ mentioned it last night, and I feel like I've been banging that drum. His off-ball cutting, not when you're supposed to, but the organic part of the game, like just seeing a seam and cutting. I remember seeing it in the preseason. I'm like, man, that's a smart basketball player. He knows how to get buckets. You see it now. JJ talked before the game. He had like 3 last night too, led to dunks. Like, he just sees the game. I watched him in the pick and roll in the preseason. I was like, man, this kid's impressive. So I remember feeling that way about Austin Reeves when we'd get a chance to see him play. Remember he started like coming along. You're like, I think we got something.
He's got something.
Year 2, you're like, huh.
Okay.
So I think the Lakers have something. I think that's pretty exciting.
You know, the cool part was you and I and Derek Fisher had this talk on a post-game show a few days ago. And he said, we talked about he went to Arkansas Little Rock. Not exactly the bastion of basketball, you know, incredible play, great draft picks. But he came from a small college, played all 4 years there. He was almost Dalton Knecht's age when he was drafted. Yeah. And he said, yeah, you know, so many people nowadays, people being front office people, think about potential. Derek's point was like, what about production?
Yeah.
What about this kid just dominating towards the end of his 1 year at Tennessee? You know?
I mean, it's the SEC conference, right? This isn't no knock on the Big West.
He scored 40 against Kentucky last year. You know? I mean, he scored 37 against Purdue in his last college game ever.
Great
Zach
team.
Edey beat him.
But, I mean, those are great teams.
Yeah. And it was very weird for me last night. I put this on one of our group texts.
He almost took down, I mean, he battled Connecticut. The best team in the whole.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it was weird for me to see them playing Utah last night. Cody Williams was drafted 7 spots higher than Dalton Knecht. And he's one of those young potential guys. Young. Jalen Williams, his brother, very gifted player in the NBA for the OKC Thunder. And Cody Williams didn't do anything for Utah last night. They were, in fact, guarding each other on a couple plays, Knecht and Cody.
I didn't even know he was in the game.
Yeah, right?
Until you texted.
Yeah.
He was getting lit up by Dalton.
Yeah, and he's
taking a spot ahead of him?
Yeah, he was 7 spots ahead of him. He was 10th in the draft. And it was a strict potential pick. You know, this kid might have something.
Ainge.
Whereas Dalton, again, it's obvious what spooked all the teams ahead of him. He wasn't going to go top 3 or 4, but starting in like the 6, 7, 8 range, it's obvious what spooked all those teams. We don't want a 23-year-old.
Yeah.
We don't want a 5th-year college kid.
Yeah.
We want to go for the young kid. And maybe Cody Williams will be a good player, and other players selected ahead of Dalton. But right now, you know, Knecht to me I think he's the rookie of the year. He or McCain, the smooth shooting guard for Philly.
And listen, it's what's presented to you, right? Like no Paul George, no Maxey, no Embiid. Then Paul George comes back, and Maxey's hurt, and so he's getting to do good things, and good for him. He's a stud too. So
he was taking 1 spot ahead of Knecht.
Yeah.
It's funny how upside down this draft might end up being.
Yeah.
And Risa Shea and Sarr and all those guys. Am I saying his name the right way?
Yeah.
I've never seen him play. He's put up decent numbers, I think.
Decent numbers
for Washington. But this could be the type of draft where there will be a few hits in the first 15, but right now 16 and 17, the overall picks are I think the 2 best players in this draft.
Good point, Dave. Could have been a Pelicans pick. We were talking about that last night.
That's
that
right.
swap was important.
The last thing they got from the AD trade.
The last part of the AD trade. It's the gift that keeps on giving us.
How about
we
that?
get AD. Thank you so much.
That.
Yep.
Got AD in a championship, and then Dalton's the bright red
Thank
cherry
you, Pelicans.
right.
Thank you, Pelicans. So the Lakers have won 6 straight. They're 10-4 on the season. Have they exceeded your expectations for the early part of the year?
Yes, I would say slightly. Like I was higher on the Lakers, I think, than a lot of people in the national media space. A lot of people had them like 9th, 10th, 11th entering the season. I was saying I think like 5th, 6th is probably realistic depending on health. So they've exceeded that. They're right now 3rd in the West, and they've taken advantage of some of this easier stretch here. That got a tough stretch coming up with the next 5 games: Orlando, Denver, Phoenix, San Antonio, and OKC. So that'll show us sort of where they're at against tougher competition. But top 5 offense in the league. AD's played like an MVP. LeBron is still playing like an all-star, all-NBA guy. Dalton might be the rookie of the year. I think Austin has taken a step in big step and has become the guy that everyone wanted him to be last year.
Very reliable.
He's become that guy this year. They've moved D'Lo to the bench, which I think is a more sustainable approach moving forward. Rui's had some good moments. So like Vando's still out, Christian Wood's out. Like if anything, I think this team could play even better moving forward.
Agree.
So I would say they exceeded for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. You remember we were doing Geet. Tough start to the season. 3 playoff teams coming to Crypto.com right away.
The 3-0 shocked me.
Yeah, 3-0 shot.
And then I was bummed on the road trip.
Yeah, 1-4 on the road.
Didn't capitalize.
Yeah, some good teams on that road trip, and a weird loss in Detroit. 10-4. Are you kidding me? If you're a Laker fan, you're ecstatic.
I agree.
You're absolutely ecstatic. JJ Redick has a choice to make. By the way, he's already made one really good decision. You just hit on it. Putting D'Lo with the reserves.
I know what you're going to say.
What's he going to do when Rui comes back from the sprained ankle? You know, Rui is solid with that starting five. He is solid. He's kind of immovable. He's got that physique, but this kid's Dalton Knecht's shooting. Does that keep him in the starting five? It's gonna be. And I'm not a believer in losing your starting job if you're hurt.
So
I'm not a believer in that.
You were hired a long time ago for a different perspective, right? You covered the team from a different lens, right? So you brought that here, which sometimes Rob and everyone will heckle you for, right? Because it's a different perspective.
Sure.
I had that. I've learned from you. I had that lens on last night.
Yeah,
and
what do you do?
It was really interesting what JJ said, and I thought of you because if you were in that press conference like you were before the game, I think if I was covering it for the LA Times, I'd have been like, that's a future story, right? Like he said, we will have, when everyone's whole, because they were talking about what goes on with Dalton, you know, how's it going to, when everyone's whole, it was Max. They were actually talking about Max at that time. We will have tough decisions to make. We, the coaching staff, like they're going to make some tough calls because they're coming.
Oh yeah,
they're coming.
Could be tomorrow.
And I was like, that is something to really keep your, because that's a first time coach. Obviously with Nate and Scotty, it's like that's going to be there's going to be a lot of people helping with that decision, Rob. But like those are real decisions that are going to have to be made that might put someone out of the rotation, two guys out of the rotation. But with injuries, someone's always going to get a chance.
Yeah, I think Rui gets his starting spot back.
I agree with you guys.
I think so.
Just because
And he should.
And especially, it's like I think if it was a longer term injury where he misses like a month or two, and they go, they're playing at a really high level without him, and Dalton has kept this up for a month or two. It's like, okay, well, sorry, but like things have changed because it's been basically a week without Rui, not even a week yet. I think he gets that starting spot back, but I think it's a shorter leash where if it's the next 3-4 games that Rui plays, he's kind of struggling the way he was before the injury, and Dalton is
Do we know
still
what the
lighting
injury
it up.
is?
It's a left ankle injury.
It is left ankle.
So if he comes back and he's kind of playing the way that he was playing before, and Dalton's still lighting it up, I think that Dalton eventually steals that spot. But I asked JJ because the thing too to me was not even just the starting lineup, but like the offensive pecking order, because there's been a clear pecking order where it's like obviously LeBron and AD are the top two, but then Austin's number 3, D'Lo's number 4, Rui's number 5.
Yeah.
Dalton was kind of a distant 6th. But that's kind of flipped now where Dalton's tied in this stretch here.
He was getting early looks too. Wasn't he getting early looks?
But like second on the team in scoring, tied with LeBron over this 4-game sample that he's been kind of cooking. And I think third on the team in shot attempts over that span as well. So
That's
it's like,
a big one.
Does he I think Austin is still going to kind of be the number 3 guy, and that probably doesn't change, but could Dalton be the number 4 guy? And I think even if he does move to the bench, he's probably the 6th man now and the leading minute getter off the bench.
Brez and I have talked a lot about this, but I want to get to you quickly because I want to get to some other stuff. But D'Lo off the bench.
Yeah.
You like it?
I do like it. Yeah. I think that was the way this was headed. There's just too much overlap and too much of a limitation there defensively with him and Austin. So I think D'Lo, I like staggering D'Lo and LeBron a bit more and giving each one of them like their own unit to kind of run. So I've liked it so far. And look, they're undefeated since they did it.
The numbers say it all. And D'Lo is shooting better with the reserves, period, compared to what he did in preseason. And the first couple weeks of the regular season, he was not shooting well at all. So,
And he's great with AD. So when Braun's out, there's no, right, you still, offense looks good.
Yeah. And if he gets hot, which he can, we've all seen it, maybe he's in the closing 5.
Yeah.
If necessary. I mean,
we forget he's a guy that can put up 5-6 threes and get smoked.
Yeah. And by the way, lost in a shuffle. The Lakers kind of got a little too crazy with that game last night against Utah. They gave up a 43-point fourth quarter.
I was watching the game going, man, have they missed? Has Utah missed? Like they just kept coming.
I know.
It was actually annoying.
So it's actually great for JJ Redick because now he has stuff to point to. Like, we got to work this.
It was
better,
mentioned a
work on
little
that.
bit yesterday. It felt like.
I mean, Dalton Knecht was the massive story, and the Lakers win
hard
again.
Not to...
Lakers' best home record since 2001. They're now 7-0 at Crypto.com Arena. That's
what did
pretty
that team
impressive.
start? Do you have that off the top of your head? Team?
Yeah, either 10 or 11.
So it's got a little ways to go.
I think 11's their best home start ever.
Trade market. You hear anything?
It's quiet. I mean, they've been linked to centers. Like that seems to be the position that they're most interested in. I think they probably need, ideally, if we're looking at like the starting lineup longer term, I would like Dalton plus a 3-and-D wing next to the other 3 guys of Austin, LeBron, and AD. So I still think that, in my opinion, they don't have enough two-way players, and they're constantly trying to make these offense versus defense decisions within certain lineups. But everything I've heard has been more likely January, if not closer to the February trade deadline.
Pat Riley statue?
Love it. Love it.
Great move.
Yeah.
Did you see the I don't know if you were listening to the A's because you guys weren't on for a while. James told the story. I hadn't heard it yet.
No.
And I
Didn't
hadn't
hear all of
seen it yet. And then I saw it today, the way that they told him, because I was curious. I think you called James, right? And you're the
did.
one who said he talked to Pat Riley.
Yeah.
Well, I looked that day and I couldn't find any Pat Riley quotes. So I'm like, and then James told us the story on air, which was really cool because I had no clue that they did a Zoom.
It's like a Zoom. Yeah.
And then I saw the Zoom today and it was actually so special. And Pat was emotional and
He was real emotional.
wasn't ready for it. His
James
wife
said.
Chris set it up. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But the Lakers hit that one out of the park.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, so
they
cool.
hit that one out of the park.
And
Jeannie nailed it. It was so cool.
Yeah, and by the way, the Lakers have some territory to play with now. Now that they're expanding Star Plaza, they're shutting down that
Bro.
street.
There'll be a statue of you with the kind of room they got over
Pretty
there.
soon. I mean, damn, 21 years around the team, right?
What's your pose, Brez?
Probably like the thinker pose.
Do you think they'll have a statue? Do you think they'll have a statue of the
Or
ice
a
cream
shell
machine?
back.
Will the ice cream machine get a statue out there?
Oh,
It
it
should. It should.
Do you hate that ice cream machine as much as I do? It's a real love-hate relationship with the media room ice cream machine.
To cut it back.
Yeah.
But
It's free ice cream, Geek.
It's
It
tough.
just,
Yeah.
not much in life is free.
Guys.
Free soft serve. You can do chocolate, vanilla, or
The
the
reason
swirl.
13 years ago I made a switch. Studio life, better for my physique,
Yeah.
better for my life.
Yeah.
Eating
God, I
on the
hate that
road,
machine.
I was traveling with the Angels at the time, man, and baseball's a whole different beast. But the food intake,
double the games.
food intake was
Food intake.
tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
And by the way,
Kid was coming in at 220.
producer Drew weighed in. Indeed, 11 wins for that 0-1 team at home to start the season. Laker record is 17.
Yeah.
So they got a ways to go. But 7-0 at home, that's impressive. That is not nothing.
Also, one thing with the win streak that I hadn't seen mentioned is 6 wins in a row. It is their most wins since February 2021.
Wow.
So it's been almost 4 years since they've won this many games in a row.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's when they were on fire, right? And everyone got hurt.
Yeah,
Are you fired up for Pat?
I am. It's awesome.
Maybe it's good to have like good hair,
I
good
yeah,
suit.
good-
Like,
good-
does he can have
exactly.
something in his hand. He always
Gotta
had
have
that.
the pleated trousers.
Does he have anything in his hand?
and-
Like sometimes he had the.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
wonder. They probably go no glasses, but maybe that's. But yeah,
Slick.
slicked
So
hair,
very slick.
Armani suit,
for sure.
power stance. Like,
Dude, it's gonna be pretty sick.
It's
He's
gonna be
have
like
wind
the,
sweeping through the hair, maybe? He's gonna.
Then you get. I mean, who's next?
It's the best fashion
Yeah,
statue
yeah.
of all time.
By the way, was he not on our list, Pat? Like we were always like in here going, who's next? It's like
Yeah.
we're worthy. James wants
James.
Lisa
I want
Leslie.
James,
Like
yep.
you talk about Jerry Buss, Phil Jackson, but the Pat Riley one was like, oh man, that's a
know.
good call.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
That's nice. That's going back to Showtime, guys. And
It's cool.
they get him one, then we'll get James one and Lisa Leslie. And like I said, plenty of acreage now in Star Plaza. Plenty. There's going to be statues like
That's my new long-term
over by the
goal.
ice skating rink.
I don't know if we're getting any, guys. Maybe a little Spectrum. I don't know if we'll get them. We'll see. All right, Lakeshow fans, remember you can be a part of this show each week. Feel free to send us your questions and comments. We'd love to hear from you. We're taking a break, but when we return, a round of bucket or brick. Brett's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, Brett. Fire it up.
Brian's too. Welcome back to the Lake Show podcast presented by Jack in the Box. If you're enjoying the show, you can check out more original podcasts from our Spectrum News journalists on the Spectrum News app. Just head to the podcast section to listen to the latest episodes. You can download the Spectrum News app on the App Store or Google Play. Time now for Bucket or Brick presented by Jack in the Box. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead. You
I'll
want to
go first. Sure.
Let's go you go first this time. Ryan, you're right. It doesn't matter. Bucket or brick? JJ Redick is your front runner for Coach of the Year. After 14 games, we're getting into it. It's award year. It's award ceremony.
This is tough. So I'm gonna go brick. But I think he should be in the mix. I just think right now Kenny Atkinson, the job he's done with Cleveland, I don't think I think most people had that team as like a 4 or 5.
Does JB get a piece of that because it was his team? And
it might be like kind of a Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr situation there, but I think the way Cleveland has played up to this point, I would give him the nod. But I think JJ is arguably number 2.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah,
Brez.
this is a really, really tough brick. Softest brick ever.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, Cleveland right now.
If they didn't start 16-0, it would be different. But you got to give them his flowers.
Yeah, I mean, even yesterday against Boston, they were there. They were screwing around a little bit in the first half. They came back. I'm like, it
The
was
JJ buy-in though has been really impressive.
it's been awesome.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Again, JJ's top 3, if not
1B?
number 2.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, Brez, bucket or brick. Dalton Knecht needs to stay in the starting lineup. We've kind of gone through this, but Bucket or brick?
You know, I'm going to brick it only because this is what I was taught. If you're hurt or sick,
Yep.
or you have personal things you have to tend to for a few games or a week or two, your starting spot is guaranteed.
Yep.
You know, Rui worked hard for that spot. He had a good summer with Team Japan in the Olympics. I'm sure it ended not the way he wanted to.
Kicked out of the game.
He got kicked out of the game, but he was strong. And JJ's been excited to coach him. I love how JJ said during training camp, I don't know if you were there that day, Jovan, he said, we don't really have a well-defined thing for Rui. You just got to kind of go with the flow, and I feel like he has. Could he be shooting a little better? Sure. Scoring a little better? Of course. But I think he gets that starting spot when he's better. Could be as early as Thursday here against Orlando, but for now it's his, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go brick. And just to add to that, I think the one, I would say, knock or concern with Dalton so far has been the defense. And I do think Rui isn't like an all-defense caliber guy or like some stopper, but I do think there's a gap there between those two. And I just think it changes the dynamic of the starting lineup going that kind of offense or not having enough defense out there. I think Rui can take on the Julius Randle types in a way that Dalton can't.
Rui's definitely on the all-airport team. You see that guy walking the airport, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Bucket or brick. That guy does something.
I like that. Bucket or brick. We're staying with the Dalton theme. Dalton Knecht is the most impactful rookie of the NBA season so far.
I will go bucket. I think he's swung now, I would say 3 of the last 4 games with that flurry he had against the Grizzlies. Then he has the 11-point quarter against the Pelicans.
Which helped win the game.
Which helped win the game. And then if you look at like the plus minuses from last night, he was far and away the leader for the Lakers. He was the only guy in double digits because he had that monster quarter, and it was great. They just couldn't guard him. So I would say for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. McCain's a lovely player. He's good. He can fill it up. He's had multiple 20, 25-point games already. But look, what's their record?
2-11.
Great on TikTok.
Yeah, he's maybe
great TikTok dancer.
Producer Trace, who's a Sixers fan, says he loves TikTok.
Trainer, who do you have? Do you have Knecht or do you have your boy?
He says Dalton. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, look at the records. One team's 2-11.
Yeah.
The other team is 10-4.
Bucket or brick, Brez? God, who wrote? Brian, was this you? Who did the bucket or bricks today? Man, he's got good ones, tough ones. Pat Riley's the greatest Lakers coach of all time. This is hard for you. This is personal for you. You're friends with.
Break this. You know, I don't think I've ever met Pat Riley. Isn't that crazy? I've never met him, never interviewed him.
You dined with Phil Jackson.
Yeah, Phil. I mean,
that was your coach.
I covered him for almost a decade. It might be a little long. How long was he here the second time? 8 years? Whatever it was. Yeah. He taught me a lot, you know, and as a journalist, you know, you're not supposed to be buddy-buddy with the coach, and I don't think we ever will or ever were. Now it's a different relationship.
Yeah.
You know, we do have dinner once a year. He taught me so much, Jovan, about just chill. You know, we'd be all over him. You guys have lost 3 in a row. This team's terrible. What's with Kobe and Powell? Blah, blah, blah. Why'd you lose in Charlotte again? Why'd you lose in Portland? And he would just be like, guys, it's January.
Yeah.
You know, and then they'd win a championship, you know, a few months later. But he taught me a lot. I have a really good Phil story, too. One time, you know, the team flies charter and has for several years now. Yeah, one time there was a problem with the flight, and they were already all on the flight. And they were trying to leave, I forget what city it was, maybe Cleveland or Detroit, and trying to go to New York, where the next game was. And it was going to be a long delay. They had to, like, truck in a part from some city in Ohio that was, or wherever they were, that was not close.
Where Brett grew up.
They were, yeah. What was it? Where'd you grow up, Brett? Wildwood? What? Never mind. At any rate, people were scared, kind of not scared, but who's going to tell Phil the bad news? We're going to be in this plane on this tarmac. It's already after midnight. It's going to be a few hours before you get this part. Who's going to tell Phil? And one of the Laker security guys said, I'll do it. When I've been told Phil, who was doing like a New York Times crossword puzzle, we're going to be here for another 3 hours at least. And he's waiting for a reaction from Phil. Phil goes, okay, nothing you can do about it, nothing I can do about it. Goes back and does the crossword puzzle. Phil would look absolute chaos in the eye and just shrug. It was amazing. Amazing.
That's what happened when they were down 15 to Portland.
There you go.
Yeah. What do you got, bucket or brick on that?
I will go brick as well. I kind of view it as it's kind of like the LeBron MJ debate a little bit, where like Pat, I think like all 9 years he was the head coach, they won 50+ games. 4 of those years they won 60+. So I think if you look at like the winning percentage and like the amount of winning they did in that time with him as the head coach, it's comparable. But Phil won with 2 different eras of Kobe, 2 different eras of
Three-peat and a
teams.
back-to-back? That's
Did
crazy.
A 3-peat and a back-to-back. Technically, they both won 5 as coach, but Pat was assistant for one of the years. So I would lean Phil, but I think it's. I mean, you're like you could go either direction. They're both great coaches.
Yeah. Bucket or brick? Lakers finish top 6 and avoid the play-in.
Ooh, good one. I think this happens. Every team wants to be top 4. Just get that first round series and go from there. Make sure that's a home court series and go from there. I think top 6 is within reach, Geet. I mean, we got a long.
Man, is it a long way to go?
Wow. But yeah, I think it's going to happen.
I'm dunking this one and
Let's
hanging
go.
on the rim.
You're in.
Let's go top 4. Let's say Lakers finish top 4 in the West.
Guys, what a way to end it.
Wow.
Thanks for listening to the
knew?
Lake Show podcast presented by Jack.
Good job, Dalton.
If you like what you hear, leave us a rating, review on your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. Send us your questions. Hit us up on Twitter at Geeter3, at Mike_Bresnahan, at Relay Clifton. Thanks to our special guest, Jovan Buha. You all follow him on Instagram, and you follow him on Twitter and all that good stuff. Until next week, so long.